Hello, everyone. Again, so I'm very happy to welcome you at the third Impact Meetups event here in Vilnius. And today we have an amazing topic. It's European Green Deal and why it is important for us. A week ago, European Commission invited 20 people from Lithuania to go to Brussels, to the heart of Europe, and to learn from the first people there. So what is European Green Deal and how it's going to affect us, how it is going to affect Lithuania. And after this amazing trip, we invited head of Lithuanian representation of European Commission here in Lithuania, Mr. Arnoldas Pranckevičius, who will tell us a little bit more about the Green Deal. But before we go to the presentation, we would like to ask you some questions. So please take your phones out, go to menti.com, and let's have a circle of questions about who we are, what we do, if we know anything about the sustainability. So you should go to www.menti.com and use the code 411267. I will do it myself as well. Okay. 50 people. We had 100 registrations, but as always, you know, some people have other plans. I'm not really sure how many of us is here. Let's wait a second. Still coming. So we can say that 60% of us are actually related to sustainability topics, and it's a great news that we have a bunch of us that are not, but clearly interested in the topic. Okay, let's move to another slide. So who you are? Let's learn who are the people on your left and on your right. There is a secret why we are doing these questions and this survey. We are in a meetup. Global Shapers, the organization which is behind this event, decided to take the concept from the technical meetups and apply it in the social sphere. And the thing is that during the meetups is not the presenter and the panelists that are talking, it's the people that those people that come to the event, they talk, and we expect you to talk. So to feel more comfortable, you need to know who are the people next to you. So as you see, we have people from waste, one person from construction, one person from mobility, some people from energy, that's nice, and many people from other. Okay. I myself from other as well. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Where have you heard about European Green Deal? If you haven't heard about the Green Deal before coming to the Impact Meetups, push Impact Meetups. Okay, Facebook is the news actually. And nobody listens for the radio, and Lithuanians are very slow on Twitter. Okay, couple more. Friends. Oh, we have one Twitter. Okay. which of the 7 policy areas is most relevant to you? So, okay, hints. European Green Deal is about these 7 things: clean energy, sustainable industry, building and renovating, sustainable mobility, biodiversity, from fork to farm, and eliminating pollution. It will take a second. As you see, you can add more than one option. So we are not that interested in renovating our gray block areas, probably because everybody liked Chernobyl. And sustainable industry is the leading one. Eliminating pollution, clean energy. Okay, 50 people. One more. Okay. So thank you. This was a small survey for us, and I think now it's the time to invite our honorable guest, Mr. Arnoldas Pranckevičius, who is presenting, obviously, a presentation of Ms. von der Leyen, right? So please, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Žygimantai. Good evening, everyone. Great pleasure to be here and to see so many great faces and new faces, old faces. Some people I know, some people I haven't. And it shows that also this community of like-minded people, or those who care about environment, about climate, about sustainability, is growing with not only every single day, but I think with every single passing hour. So thanks for this initiative, indeed, to the Global Shapers, to organize this meetup on European Green Deal, something that perhaps was the term which was not known or not really mentioned just half a year ago, and now so often is being referred to in different media, in different debates across Europe. And indeed, it is linked to Madame Ursula von der Leyen, the new Commission President, who is in the job for now 2 months. Only, but already has done a lot in terms of pushing this agenda in European Union, across the governments, across the businesses and civil society. And of course, the main ambition of this new commission, which, as I mentioned, started its work only on the 1st of December, is first and foremost to be green, but also to be digital, but at the same time to remain human. And these 3 ambitions are in many ways intertwined, because in order for the European Union to lead on climate policy and to inspire other world powers to join or to remain committed not only to Paris Climate Agreement but also to the future commitments, and in order for us to catch up in terms of digital innovation, in terms of new technologies, in terms of artificial intelligence, robotics, we need a working, sustainable, growing economy that would support those 2 very important green and digital ambitions of von der Leyen Commission. Therefore, the economy part is no less important. And economy, as more and more, also on European level, is becoming oriented towards the people, more and more acquiring a social narrative, in terms of social rights, in terms of social package, in terms of fair pay, in terms of equal opportunities, in terms of really fighting rising inequality, social exclusion, and regional disparities all across Europe. Because if we don't tackle those, we will not be able to become a modern 21st century economy able to fight climate change and able to use the digital transformation for our own benefit. So the Green Deal as such, therefore, is called by Ursula von der Leyen the new growth strategy of Europe. She's sending a message especially to the businesses who are very worried about this new proposal that climate and environment are not detrimental to economy. That climate and environment and environmental solutions actually can be super interesting and profitable for businesses that embrace those technologies first, that are in front of this transformation. And also with that, we can create many more jobs instead of increasing unemployment or risking a certain part of our society becoming lost in this transition. And that's what history tells us. From 1990 or so until today, so in those 30 years in the European Union, we have cut greenhouse gas emissions by 23%. Of course, not enough, but that already shows you the destination and our direction. And while we've been cutting consistently in the last 30 years, the EU GDP has been growing up all the time, up to 61%. So this graph by itself, I think, shows to all the skeptics that being climate friendly and environment friendly doesn't mean that you suffer economically or that you slow down as GDP. What this European Green Deal entails, I mean, there are four main goals in many ways. The biggest and the most important one, which you've been hearing, I think, many times already, is for the European Union to become climate neutral economy by 2050. That's the big slogan, that's the big goal, but there will be very many small steps for that to be achieved. Secondly, of course, it's protecting human life, animals and plants by reducing pollution. And in this direction, you have all of our new policies which will be devoted to biodiversity as well as oceans and fisheries, helping companies to become world leaders in clean products and technologies. A lot of science and research will be devoted to that objective. The new industrial strategy as well. And last but not least, helping ensure just and inclusive transition, to make sure that these very big ambitious goals don't leave anyone behind, especially those countries that start not from the same level, not from the same foot. In many ways, we all understand that the European Union is very diverse. If you compare Sweden and Greece, if you compare Finland and Poland, you'll see completely different level today in terms of meeting CO2 emission requirements, in terms of also mentality change, in terms of acceptance in the public debate of these policies. So we are not starting from the same level, and we have to be mindful of that a lot of countries, a lot of member states will need support in order to make this transition a bit more smooth. And all of that, of course, will affect all of our policies in the European Union. European Green Deal is not just environment policy. European Green Deal is a policy that will impact transport, it will impact agriculture, it will impact energy, it will impact, of course, environment, it will impact fisheries, it will impact science and research. It will pretty much impact every single policy, and therefore it is such a horizontal approach, and this is the only way to look at it. You cannot only rely on, say, in the governments of member states on environment ministries. All ministries and all governments should have a comprehensive strategy how to tackle climate change. And therefore the budget as such, national and European, should also have a comprehensive approach. So von der Leyen wants to devote 25% of the entire EU budget for climate objectives. 25%. In some areas, like agriculture, common agricultural policy, the very famous and old policy of the European Union, which is very, very, sensitive and important for so many farmers across the EU, even 40% of that budget will be in one way or the other devoted to the climate objectives. This will be not easy. Farmers will have to employ it in order to use precision farming, in order to use less pesticides, in order to move more and more towards eco-farming, in order to invest in science and research, in environmental protection. So you will see this policy, if it succeeds and if it will receive the government support, affecting every single of the EU policy. Let's unravel a bit those beans and see inside specifics of the proposal. In terms of economy, we want to link European semester, and European semester is not the Erasmus exchange semester abroad, but it is our annual economic governance model, which observes every member state and gives precise recommendation what to do in terms of structural reforms, budget discipline, and other economic objectives. We want to link it to climate. We want to link it to sustainable development goals, so that in every single our annual recommendation that is quite clearly presented. Industrial strategy, which I mentioned, also will have a big climate part of it. This is the field of Thierry Breton, the new industry commissioner, who will be coming up with the industry package later this year. Circular economy, of course, it's important to be circular, but it's important not to go in circles. And here, this is a portfolio of Lithuanian Commissioner Virginijus Sinkevičius, the policy that has become very popular in the last 5 years, but will move into even new territory. We've tackled single-use plastic. We want to revisit plastic and see where we can be a bit even more ambitious. Textiles is next, and this is a very important area which needs clear European regulation, and of course more and more incentives for the businesses, not just to recycle but to reuse. And in terms of waste hierarchy, as much as possible, increase the percentage of all waste being reused, limit the percentage of the waste being burnt, and of course pretty much limit to nothing the waste that goes to the dumps. There, of course, again, the results are very different. From 80% in Malta, where still trash is not being neither recycled nor reused, to 1.2% in Germany, and all other countries in between. So you can see huge diversity in terms of making waste live a second life, come back to the economy, serve a second life, and therefore manage our waste in much smarter way. Circular economy will also be about longer livelihood of things, in terms of especially big equipment that we are buying in shops, such as washing machines or refrigerators, etc., so that they serve longer, that they can actually be much easier also put back to life. Sustainable investment is another important area in terms of economy, and there von der Leyen wants to increase the amounts of funds. In terms of climate, we'll have a new climate law being presented in less than a month. In the end of February, beginning of March, you'll have this first climate law in European history, which will, in fact, codify our ambitions in terms of 2030 and 2050. So this will be the essential parts of countries' commitments, how to achieve climate neutrality by 2050. We expect very tough negotiations with the member states. We expect a difficult negotiation between the European Parliament and the Council, but watch this climate law. This will give the details. Also, this will help us as the European Union in our international relations, in our international play at the United Nations and at the COP conferences to raise the global ambition in terms of 2030, because really the current targets are falling behind the necessary. And of course, more and more investments will be linked to the energy and transport, clean energy and transport. So if you look at the future budget, transport budget will not finance transport which is not clean and ecological. Energy budget will not finance energy projects which are not ecological, and even nuclear energy was eliminated just recently from the list of those projects which would be financed by the EU. So EU is becoming quite serious in what it finances and in what it doesn't finance in terms of definition. And of course, taxation. Here, of course, we will explore new ways to get new own resources to the EU budget, and of course, the pollution tax or any type of also the carbon border tax could be a very useful tool, not only to provide European Union with additional funds for its climate objectives, but also to limit unfair competition vis-à-vis the other countries of the world that will not have the same type of ambitions as we. In terms of financing, all of that will, of course, necessitate a lot of money. Von der Leyen presented now 2 financial instruments a couple of weeks ago. They are also raising a lot of debate across Europe. First is Just Transition Fund. This one will have 100 billion euros, and this will primarily be used to help the countries that are carbon intense or coal intense to make this transition to the carbon neutral economy smoother and quicker. And I talk about countries like Poland, but not only. And in the first budget proposal for the first chunk of that fund, we expect 7.6 billion euros as an example, and even 2 billion of those 7 billion will be devoted to Poland alone. Lithuania, for your information, is expected to get 97 million euros from this first installment in the Just Transition Fund. This will, of course, cover the socioeconomic costs of that transition. For instance, if there will be coal mines which will have to be closed, restructured, what to do with the many people who will lose their jobs, how to reskill them, retrain them, and return them into the job market. This will be a very important thing to do. But not only will have to cover the costs of the transition, we'll have to invest into the future. And here, where European Green Deal investment plan comes in. The plan of sustainable investments, which we hope will be 1 trillion euros big, so it's a big number, the number that even Donald Trump would be impressed about. And that will be, in many ways, the budget which will finance future projects of renewable energy, the future innovations. It will finance future science and technology, really something we need to reach a competitive edge. And last but not least, environment. Environment in terms of seeking for zero pollution, in terms of fighting for biodiversity, saving biodiversity in Europe, in terms of farm-to-fork policy, where we want to achieve not only a situation where we get the product as much local as possible and traveling as little as possible from farm to your plate, but also in terms of aiding farmers that show an example for others, young farmers including. And European Climate Pact, which will be kind of a new community between the regions and civil society, schools and universities that will help us, to really integrate and mobilize people around the idea of European Green Deal. Just to look more deeply into the financing side, here you see the mechanics of European Sustainable Investment Plan as well as Just Transition Mechanism. So you see that we are thinking about different sources. About half of it will come from the EU budget, so nearly 500 billion will be coming from EU budget directly. But the other half we expect to attract from private and public investment, as well as from European Investment Bank that is becoming really Europe's climate bank. European Investment Bank will be a key institution in terms of providing loans at very good terms for different businesses and governments in order to achieve those very, very big goals. So to finish this first presentation, which I hope will lead to an interesting discussion and a great evening with us, I would like to remind of a quote of one famous guy who went to the to the space, Mr. Lowell, who once said that from now on, we'll live in a world where man has walked on the moon. And it's not a miracle, we just decided to go. Ursula von der Leyen called European Green Deal the European man on the moon moment. In many ways, scaring many people that it's a very big ambition that is impossible to reach. Well, we've been to the moon many years ago. It's no longer a miracle. It's doable. It's achievable, as is the European Green Deal. So this European man on the moon moment is actually within our reach if we decide to go there, and if we decide to go there all together. Not only the citizens, but most importantly, the governments and the businesses that should really commit to that very strongly. So, Žygimante, thank you so much, and I look forward to a very interesting evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Great presentation. And now it's up to us to set the direction where we move on tonight. So we are in a meetup, which means that we expect that you are the professionals of your own, and you have your opinions and you have your questions. So what does that mean? If you have a question, please raise your hand. We have one mic here. For those that are up there, there will be people with microphones over there. And let's initiate a discussion. Imagine that you are a potential panel speaker, and of course you have an opinion about the European Green Deal. Is it big enough? Is it, maybe it's not? Is it possible or no? Should we go there? Should we go further? And so on and so on. Is there any unclear moments? What about Poland? Is there going to be a Lithuanian Green Deal? And let's talk. We expect that you will raise the question, and there will be another person in the room that if you know the answer, if you have an opinion, don't be afraid and tell it to us, and let's start a discussion. So do we have any first comments after Arnoldas' presentation? Anyone, just a pop-up idea or what you were thinking while listening for the presentation? Okay.
I don't think, oh yeah, it works.
Your name, who you are?
My name is Matas, I'm also a shaper. I am also a lawyer at Stasonet, so have nothing to do with the Green Deal yet, but would like to know more about. And like you already mentioned, Žygis, and of course Arnoldas, you mentioned that we are going to have to deal with a lot of players in this game, and of course Poland is one of the heavyweights. So I see already that we have some carrots to use in this game. I wonder if we have any sticks, because you already mentioned you have 2 billion euros prepared for Poland. I wonder if it's enough. I've just seen that they are already planning strikes because they are importing coal from Russia, I think. So they are not happy that they don't get to dig enough in their own country. And now we have to say to them, sorry guys, you're not going to dig at all from this day on. So how can we deal with that? Knowing that we already have the judiciary problems there, where we are not so, well, well prepared, I guess. We are still looking for the ways how to deal with them, how to make them abide the law. So how should we do it? How do we solve this?
Thank you, Matti. Well, you know, it's a tough question because there's no clear answer, you know, how to deal with Poland. Poland, as I don't know if everyone knows, was the only country which stayed away from 2050 commitment